it woke me up. My condo door's right next to hers. The glass door is shattered. I think they shattered her door.
3 people connected to a U.S. Air Force base in Ohio found dead. A mom and dad to 3 and a coworker. This is a case that has shocked a community, it's shattered a family, and it's left so many questions about what was going on that could have led to this violence. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Stewart. Before we get into this episode of On the Case, it's one of the most watched shows on all of YouTube. I need to take a moment and talk about our partner and sponsor, Upside. This is a free app that can give you cash back when you buy daily essentials like gas and groceries. Upside, it's free, it's easy to use. I actually use it a lot when I pump gas because you get some pretty good money back. I go to 7-Eleven, I can use Upside there. Hey, if I want to go grab some fast food, a place like Taco Bell, they often accept Upside too. And it's real cash back we're talking about. So after you spend, money appears in your Upside account and you can transfer it straight to your bank. So here's what you need to do. Download the Upside app for free, buy whatever you plan to purchase, pay as usual with your debit or credit card, then you file a claim in this app and the money comes right back to you. To find out how much you could save with Upside, click the link in the description or scan the QR code on your screen and use our promo code OTC to get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Days later, there are so many questions still at this point about what was going on in a man's life to lead him to kill his wife, the mother of his children, and a coworker. This is all according to police in Ohio. Law enforcement says at least part of the deadly series of events was caught on camera, and another part was relayed to authorities via a 911 call from a terrified local woman. Now, all of this happened in the suburbs of Dayton, Ohio, not far from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. In fact, the 3 people involved in this story, the 3 people who lost their lives, they all worked at the base. 34-year-old Jacob Prichard and his wife, 33-year-old Jaime Prichard. They were both civilian employees at the base. Jacob worked at the Air Force Research Laboratory, while Jaymee worked as a finance specialist at the Air Force Life Cycle Management Center. Now, the other woman killed in this crime spree is 25-year-old Jaime Gustitus. In fact, her name is First Lieutenant Jaime Gustitus. She was reportedly working for the 711th Human Performance Wing. That's part of the Air Force Research Lab where Jacob Prichard worked. Now, so far, police have not revealed much about the Prichard's connection to Lieutenant Gustitus other than the fact that she was a work colleague. Gustitus lived in a condo complex in Sugar Creek Township, which is south of the base. On Saturday, October 25th, around 2 o'clock in the morning, a panicked 911 call came in to Greene County dispatchers. Gustitus' neighbors said that someone woke her up from a dead sleep, banging on Gustitus' door, possibly shattering a glass door. And when she tried to see what was going on, she reported a man threatened to shoot her.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
Yes, I live at 1627, and my neighbors next door to me, there was
1627?
people out of Honey Tree Place. There was people out on their patio, a gentleman, and he was trying to get into their door. And I opened up my back door, and he said he had a gun to get back in my house, and he hopped off their patio and left.
1627 Honey Tree Place?
Yes.
Okay.
He woke me up out of a dead sleep. He was pounding on the door with something, and
Banging, this was your neighbor's door?
yes, my neighbor's door. I live in the condos.
Okay, so how long ago
I don't want
was
to go
this?
outside. Just right now, it woke me up. My condo door's right next to hers. The glass door is shattered. I think they shattered her door.
So when you went outside, he told you he had to come
I didn't go out on my deck. I turned my light on, and I peeked my head out the door, and there was guys on her deck, and I said hello, and he said, "Get back in, we have a gun," and he jumped off the deck and ran, and my Ring camera went off out front.
And he jumped off the deck. Which way did he go?
I didn't see because I came back inside. I don't know.
So the glass door there is shattered?
I heard like a shatter, like glass.
The 911 caller took a look at Ring camera footage and she was able to give police at least a partial description of the man who had threatened her. Police believe that man was Jacob Prichard.
Okay, it looks like he's got on blue jeans, white. It looks like a white male from what I can see. Blue jeans, white gym shoes, and it looks like he's got on a black, like some type of T-shirt or like sweatshirt.
Do you see which direction he goes?
He was at hers. He came over, so he ran right across my front patio, or I'm sorry, my front door. My front door is on the main street when you come in.
Which way was he going? Can you tell?
He was going towards Apple Branch Drive.
Okay, and if he's on foot when he does that, doesn't get in the car or anything?
No, he's on foot because he was in the back of our yard, so he ran through the back, went down the side.
I just want you to keep yourself safe there. We'll let the officers know to stop by and speak to you, and you can give them a statement and everything. Like I said, just keep an eye on your door and your camera and everything, and when you see the officers there, go and talk to them. But otherwise, just stay inside until they get there, just in case he is still walking around outside. I don't want you to step outside and put yourself at risk until the officers have a chance to kind of check and secure the area there, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Police found Lieutenant Gustitus dead inside the condo, but as this investigation was just getting underway in Sugar Creek Township, police in West Milton, Ohio, 30 miles away on the other side of Dayton, made a gruesome and tragic discovery. Now, there was a suspicious car parked in the lot of the municipal building in West Milton. Next to the car was Jacob Prichard. He was found dead on the ground. He had what police believed to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The trunk of that car was open, and inside, another horrific discovery. It was Prichard's wife, Jaymee. According to police, Jacob's movements were caught on surveillance cameras, but the grisly crime scene wasn't discovered until around 5 o'clock Sunday. Ohio investigators believe that Jacob killed his wife before taking his own life, but it's unclear right now exactly when and where her murder happened. And a motive behind the murders is also unknown. The Air Force Base said the deaths are being investigated by the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation. The communities where Gustitus and the Pritchards lived, they're in mourning. Many neighbors saying that this violence was completely unexpected. Now, Jaymee was a devoted mom to 3 children. According to her obituary, she was close with her large family. That included 6 siblings, many nieces and nephews. Part of her obituary reads, quote, "Those who knew Jaymee will remember her for her infectious smile and overwhelming laughter, her deep-rooted faith in Jesus, and her unwavering commitment to spreading love and kindness to everyone she encountered. She had a rare gift where she could make others smile and laugh while leaving a lasting impact on all who crossed her path. Although Jaymee's physical presence may no longer grace our lives, her spirit will continue to inspire and uplift us. May her memory be a blessing, and may we carry forth her legacy of love and compassion in all that we do." Meantime, Lieutenant Jaime Gustitus' obituary, which describes her as having been, quote, "viciously taken at the dawn of her amazing life," it gives us an idea of just how smart she was and how well she served her country. According to her obituary, Gustitus attended the U.S. Air Force Academy, and in addition to her own private pilot's license, she attended Air Force pilot training and completed a Master of Science in Operations Analysis from the Air Force Institute of Technology, which is at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. She specialized in mathematical and quantitative modeling. Quote, "Jaymee embodied acceptance, gentleness, purity, naivete, loyalty, and passion as an untroubled spirit who caused no harm and welcomed all. Everyone touched by Jaymee in their lives is better for knowing her." Joining us now to talk more about this case is Police Sergeant Kyle Schoberg, co-host of the Shots Fired podcast. Thank you for being with us. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime. Very sad story here when you think of, these parents first off who, they have 3 kids, and then you have this Air Force lieutenant. She loses her life as well. What stood out to you just going through what we know at this point from law enforcement about this case?
Yeah, so these are tricky. I mean, this is a domestic violence type of incident, obviously, given that they are husband and wife. Really, this all kind of starts with putting puzzle pieces together. How did these people know each other? Obviously, they worked with each other, but in what capacity? And then was there some type of relationship going on with his wife? this other individual who was killed, unfortunately, and then kind of being able to just tie all of that together and really give closure, I guess, to the family as to why this all happened, and just being able to put all the evidence together and figure out what exactly was going on with everybody involved in it. But it is sad. I mean, you never want to see this type of stuff.
No, and I mean, it's just, you know, you look at pictures of this couple and pictures of Lieutenant Gustitus, and it's just, it's tough to deal with. And I know in law enforcement, you see these cases all too often. I imagine cell phone data will play an important role in piecing some things together. How do you go about finding out the connection? We know where they worked, but if something else was going on.
Yeah, I think honestly, once you get into those cell phones, that'll tell you everything. And so in today's day and age, leaving a digital footprint is next to impossible not to do. And so I think first things first is they are going to get into all of their cell phones, and, you know, cell phone data records, of course, for the suspect, which will leave a digital footprint of where he was, but dumping those phones and just going through text messages and really dialing back what exactly was going on, and was there a relationship between these two? And that's what sparked this whole thing. And so you're right. I mean, I believe they will get their answers in those cell phones.
And, you know, sadly, in some of these cases, you just never know what would happen in a home, but, you know, especially with this type of family violence. But for it to go the way that it did, according to police, and for it to span 2 locations, 30 miles apart, for him to threaten this neighbor and to go through with it, what stood out to you about just that part of it?
Yeah, I think for him, it's just the pure anger, and that he was going to carry out this crime all the way through. And I think, you know, clearly we saw that. And so he didn't care who saw him, who the witnesses were. You know, clearly he knows that he's going to be on camera. And I think in a case like this, it's unfortunate, but people like that are dead set on what their mission is. And his was to kill that other individual, go kill his wife, drive to the police station or wherever this murder scene took place with his wife, so that clearly these bodies were found, him and his wife, leave his trunk open. He parks in the city hall or municipal parking lot. I just think that it just boils down to utter rage, and nothing was going to stop him that night. And that's ultimately is what happened. Yeah.
And because, you know, in some of these sad stories that we cover, you know, family violence where someone, you know, takes the life of someone else as well as themselves, and you would know better than I, but it feels like there's some of this like impulse moment where it happens. But this would have had to have spanned at least, I mean, an hour at least, in terms of going to the home of one person and then you're driving 30 minutes away to a municipal building where everything comes to an end. How common is it in these types of stories where it's that impulse, maybe just a couple of minutes where everything takes place, but then in this one, to be in a place where you are so dead set on rage that you're going to carry out this murder allegedly at this coworker's house, and then, you know, it's still unclear when his wife was killed, but then obviously taking her life as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's very common, and that's why domestic violence calls are so violent and dangerous. And that's because people are acting on their emotion. And you got to think, I mean, they're in a marriage together. If, you know, she was having another relationship, I mean, it just boils down to rage and violence. And unfortunately, I say it all the time, during these domestic violence types incidents, I mean, people are not thinking logically. And so it's dangerous for police, it's dangerous for victims, it's dangerous for people that are, if they, you know, let's say they are having some type of relationship or an affair. It's just, they're very volatile situations, and not all the time do they end in murder, but oftentimes they do, or at least the murder of the victim who's the victim of domestic violence. And so I'm thankful that no children were hurt in this, because a lot of times when you do see these murder-suicides, you do see kids that are also murdered in these. And so they're sad. And for him to drive the 30 minutes or for it to expand over an hour, I mean, that's not, you know, that's very believable that would have happened. And a pathologist will find out, you know, the time of murder for her. But
I was going to just say, like, how long does it take to figure that out? Because that'll be important. Maybe the better question would be, how specific can that time of death be? Because you have this incident that plays out in the early morning hours where the 911 call comes in, and it seems like it's still kind of a mystery of when the wife passed away. And then he's at the municipal building. I mean, how specific can a pathologist get to say, I believe that this happened before he goes to the coworker's house or after?
Yeah, they're very good at what they do, and they can narrow that down to a pretty good approximate time of when the homicide actually occurred, and especially based on how quickly that body was found. And so in this case, it was quick. But it also helps using the, digital footprint of these individuals, like when was she last on her phone? Like when was she last active and then not? And then they can kind of put all that together. So they're actually pretty fairly accurate.
And when it comes to, I know we talked about the digital footprint, and that's going to be huge. And we don't know much. Police have not released a lot. Family haven't said a lot about Jacob Prichard. Obviously, we know, sadly, from obituaries about the two women who he allegedly killed. We know that they were people who were certainly loved by their family members and community members. How common is it in these cases? And every case is different, I get that, but that there was a pattern leading up to a moment of such rage that would span over the course of, say, an hour or however long it was for all of this to play out, that someone would actually go through with this. And how likely is it that all of this kind of came out of the blue and there were no warning signs?
Yeah, I think it's common. I mean, I think people snap, and when someone snaps and they're in this fit of rage and they have this plan that they're going to carry out, I think that it's not uncommon for even an hour of time spent. That's not a very long time when someone's in that emotional state of mind to carry out this level of crime. And again, I think once someone has made their mind up that that's what they're going to do, and they are in that fit of rage, and we don't know if this person was under the influence of any type of drug or alcohol induced anything. And so that obviously I believe would take a factor in his mental state. But again, all of that will come out later. Unfortunately, I would just say that it is common. And I think once he commits that first homicide, like, he's going to carry out the rest of his plan, because he knows what does he have to lose at that point? I mean, he knows he's caught, he's on camera, he wasn't trying to hide anything.
I think too, for whoever found the vehicle at the municipal building, and I believe it was just because it was the only car that was in the parking lot, what's it like in those moments? Because I think it was a police officer that was the one that figured out, oh my gosh, this man has been shot, he's next to the car, and then you look in the trunk and then there's his wife. What are those initial moments like? Because I'm sure even if, for you, even as a trained professional, that has to get your heart rate going at a level that most people can't comprehend.
Yeah, and oddly enough, I have experienced something similar to this. It was just someone taking their own life, but it actually happened twice outside of our police station that I work at during times that I worked. And it does get your heart and adrenaline going when you pull up to your station. There's a car there, there's a body laying on the ground, there's a firearm there. You're thinking all of these things. Did this person just get murdered here? Where is the person that did this? Then you find a body in the trunk. I don't think your brain automatically assumes murder-suicide. I think as a law enforcement officer, you want to start thinking, like, did someone commit this crime here, and are they on the loose, and it occurred at their station? And so there's a lot of things to take into account, and I think as things slow down a little bit, you can kind of start putting the puzzle pieces together. But I've come across that myself, and it is very strange. But I believe in this case, in the cases that I was involved in, you find out that, hey, they did this at the police station because they wanted police officers to find the bodies and not just some citizen. And so that for sure was done intentional.
Because I also know, just from what police have said in Ohio, that the trunk was open to the car. Mm-hmm. So he, pulls in, opens the trunk, and then takes his own life. And I know that there's no way that anyone can ever comprehend or make sense of why, what was truly going through someone's mind. But in this case, I know you're going to look at, the cell phone records and see if there's any sort of text messages, online DMs that might have been going on between any of the people involved. But then also in these cases too, I feel like you see a lot of financial stress, financial pressures. Where else are you looking beyond the cell phones, trying to figure out, and I know it's not like there's someone still at large or a criminal case that's going to go forward, but figuring out exactly what you're going to end up telling people about why all of this happened.
Yeah, well, I think they all work together. So I think talking to coworkers and stuff, but people behave differently in environments at work or around friends and family, right? So I truly believe that the best evidence that they're going to get to solve this or get their why is through their cell phones. Something clearly was going on there between the three of them, and they just need to figure out what was it, and that you're only going to get that through text messages, phone calls, social media, things of that nature that are in all of their phones.
How long does it typically take, I know this case has been going on since last week, but how long does it typically take to get the documents from Verizon or whoever it may be with, hey, here are the text messages between these numbers?
Yeah, most cell phone carriers are very good with working with law enforcement. And, once that involves writing warrants and things of that nature, being able to get into the cell phones. But then you also have to hook these phones up to devices that will crack passcodes. If there's new cell phones nowadays, that have iOS updates or whatever the case is, like things that break into cell phones are constantly having to evolve to be able to get into phones. And if you have passwords on your phones, how many digits is it? Is it face rec? Excuse me. That may slow down the process because sometimes some devices that crack into cell phones are not as up to date as some of these cell phone carriers. And so that part's always tricky. That's always evolving. So that does play a huge role. It could be as quick as a day. It could take up to a year. You just never know. And so that's really dependent on what kind of phones they had and how secure were they.
When it comes to talking to family members in situations like this, knowing that they're going through this incredible shock, incredible amount of loss, and you might have to ask questions about infidelity. And we don't know if that's what was going on here, but you obviously have one man, two women, one was a coworker. That's definitely a question law enforcement's going to ask. To ask family members about those types of things, how do you go about that conversation? Because I'm sure that can bring out a lot of different emotions from people.
Oh yeah, that's never a comfortable conversation to have anytime you have, any type of death. But the reality is you do have to sit these people down and explain to them, hey, look, as uncomfortable as this is or as hard as it is, we do have to get to the bottom of this and figure out why this occurred. And these conversations or questions have to be asked. Now, you obviously want to be diligent with how you're asking, your tone, your demeanor, and all of that. A lot of times we'll have chaplains with us if it's very sensitive to be there to, encourage these victims who have lost a loved one. But they are uncomfortable. But as investigators, those oftentimes are questions that just they have to get answered. And the only people that have those answers are family members or close friends. And so there is no easy way to do it.
And then because this is a case, sadly, this is, in some ways it's a criminal investigation, but there's not going to be a trial. There's not going to be, it's very final in terms of what happened here. What is the end of this investigation look like? Is it contacting the family and then just bringing them in and kind of sitting them down and laying out what you think happened? Like, how do you close a case like this?
So these will always get investigated like any other homicide until you reach the bitter end. And so not a lot of information will probably be given to the family until the entire investigation is over. And a lot of times I know that's hard for people to understand because at face value, you think that, hey, this case is done. We know what happened. We want answers. And unfortunately, we just, in law enforcement, we can't do that. We have to keep the integrity of the case still, continue the investigation all the way through. And then once it's done, then at that point, you can present what happened to the family. But they still take time, even though we know what it is and we know what happened. But no corners get cut, even in cases like this.
Yeah, very sad case. Know that they were the parents to 3 kids. The lieutenant, she was an Air Force Academy graduate, had a lot going for her. Just incredibly tragic out of Ohio. Kyle Schoberg, police sergeant and co-host of the Shots Fired podcast. Thanks for walking through this case with us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Chris.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law&Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.